Good morning, Tony Dattino, doing my live with Tony. I wanted to get that in before I went off for some procedure today and thought this was so important. It's called Relax to Max. This is out of New Scientist magazine, a fabulous article on the definition that emerged as an activity. So here's relaxing. It's a activity that is restorative, intentional, and relaxing. Now, what does that mean? You're bringing down your stress levels. And why is this so very, very important? So think about it. Restorative, so it's building back up. It's intentional. You're focused on actually relaxing or doing very little. I mean, that took me a little bit of work at one point in my life where I just felt that I had to be go, go, go. And if I weren't doing something, I felt kind of guilty about it. Well, what they're finding now is relaxing and taking time for yourself to just downshift is important resilience. We're finally to grasp that rest and relaxation actually help the brain and your physical body. This is how you turbocharge yourself going into the future. After reading the most popular activities were, so now in your study and you research this, some of the most popular activities for relaxing, spending time in nature. I love doing that, and that's an order of preference, is spending time in nature, just looking out at the trees and the greens and listening to birds. God, I love when I hear the birds chirping in the morning. We've got beautiful green here in the back here. If I could just give you a quick picture. I sit out there on the porch sometimes and just look at the greenery, and we got a pond, and I look at the gators sometimes swimming along and listening to the birds chirping along. It's just fantastic. So in order of preference, spending time in nature. I wonder what that's worth in terms of our health when you think about it, cost in terms of the real estate value. Being alone. So sometimes being alone. So there's that balance about being alone and being lonely versus being alone and having it be restorative. Listening to music. Now, this is a tricky one because it depends on the kind of music. There's been some research that some of our crazy hard rock metal stuff, it's like it's not the best thing for you. In studies I've read, it was early Beatles music they found was one of the best restorative music sounds that you could put. And I say early, it's in the early 60s when the Beatles first came on the scene before they got a little bit crazy at one point in time in their lives. But the early Beatles music. So music. Doing nothing in particular. Well, how's that for relaxing? Just doing nothing and just sitting there. I sometimes just sit there and just stare outside and look at the trees or just sitting on the front porch and just watch cars go by, but basically doing as little as possible. That's taxing my thinking process. A good walk. And more research. You don't have to be a marathon runner. You don't have to be, a fast-paced walker, but getting out and just taking a good walk. And a good walk can be a half a mile. It can be 10 minutes. Some of the research I've read is 5 minutes before bedtime helps process any sugars through your blood system. And just 5 minutes, and don't work up a sweat and don't get yourself all riled up. Now, summertime is not a good time to go out if it's humid and hot, but boy, going to bed sometimes during the cooler weather is just take a 5-minute walk, just go up the block and come back. Maybe you say hello to somebody and you've done yourself well. And a nice hot bath. I'm not into hot baths. I don't know. I can't take a hot shower or a hot bath and then try to jump under the covers and try to relax. So that one does not exactly work for me, but boy, for a lot of people, a hot bath. Daydreaming. Just kind of let your brain float out there. Well, what am I doing in a week's time? Where might I go on a vacation? Where have I been on a vacation that's been really helpful and positive and one that has been restorative to me? And then how about watching TV with no particular purpose in mind? So watching the Giant game Monday would not qualify. So watching this week's Seattle-New York Giants game would not be something that would cause one to relax. So that's not the kind of TV watching we're talking about. I talk about it as being mindless television watching and just watch it for the sake of, okay, let me listen to some sounds and see what people are doing. Maybe I watched this new game show on last night. It didn't have a lot of taxing in terms of my brain, and I can't even think of the name of it, but it was a news show, came from Mexico, and very mindless, didn't need to think a whole lot about it, just watch them play the game. 15% of our respondents chose exercising. So physical exercising is another way that I find for myself. When I get into those states of stress, I just go out and run for, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's a half hour. It depends on the day and the temperatures and how active I want to be. Now, the findings are consistent, and what they're discovering is that they are activities that help lower blood pressure, also lower stress hormones, and lower the chances or the impacts you may have if you're in a depressed state of mind. So I find that running for me, it just brings me to a different state. I'm thinking of the trees or the birds or cars, the other people I may see as I'm running up the street. But they bring down your blood pressure and the stress hormones, and lower your rate and possibility of depression. So it's all good stuff. In terms of health, rest has long been considered, hey, when you have a surgery or you have a problem, rest, just stay in bed. No, not anymore. What they're saying, it's viewed as a last resort. You should get up and be active. So getting about and moving is the best thing, since lengthy stints of inactivity are known to diminish the cardiovascular functions and bone health and muscle function. So the notion of resting now is taking on new definitions. And so we're resting in terms of relaxation. So that's a little bit of interesting, right? We want you to rest, but what we don't want you to do in terms of your resting is we don't want you to just rest and not have some physical activity in the middle of all that. I found this article really showing that waking in a restful mode strengthens the brain and helps you with learning. And so the last point I want to make, obviously, in the work that I do, it's always what can we do to help improve our brain functions. And so resting and the periods of learning and giving yourself a little bit of a break in between 35 to 45-minute segments of learning and then taking 5-minute breaks is an outstanding way of helping your memory and helping you to retain the lessons of what you wanted to learn. So that is my Live with Tony for today. I'm hoping I can be back here with you on Friday. Maybe not. I've got a procedure I'm going for today, and hopefully my recovery will be good, and I'll be back with you on Friday. And if not, we'll see you by next week. But I hope this lesson of learning to relax in the right ways has been beneficial and helpful to you.